Hello and welcome, fellow bookworms and film fans. Welcome to this week's episode of The Consented Narrative. We will be looking at Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. It was written in 1883. It was then adapted to screen quite a few times. I find myself saying that quite a lot as well. But I will be looking at my personal favourite, Muppet Treasure Island. Now, I don't care if people don't think it's a true thingy adaptation. It's my channel and I can compare whatever ones I want. The Muppet Treasure Island is the one I'm comparing. And Muppet Treasure Island obviously is my favourite version basically. So I'll be looking at three things. I'll be looking at how good is the film, how good is the book, and how good does the plot take from the book. So the film. Oh, the film. Is there nothing the Muppets can't do? You've got Muppet Christmas Carol, which may or may not be coming later this year, around Christmas time, possibly. You've got Muppet Treasure Island, you've got Muppets in Space. I hear that they're going to do a Muppets version of, what's it called? It's the one with Eddie Murphy in it. Oh, bother. And it's based on a Haunted Mansion. So they're going to be doing Muppets Haunted Mansion. And to be perfectly honest, I just love the Muppets. I honestly do. Like, my little brother James adores the songs from the Muppets as well. Like, and I mean, I love them as well. I know them all off by heart. It's just a brilliantly fantastic romp. And it just is. And to be fair, as you'll see later when I'm comparing the book and the film, it is quite close in plot. But I mean, you've got Kermit the Frog, you've got obviously Miss Piggy, you know, it's just, honestly, there is nothing wrong with it. This is a perfect family film. This is a perfect watch on your own film. This is a perfect, lazy afternoon film, cheer you up film. Like, it's just a film for everything. And this film gets a 9 out of 10 for me. Honestly, it's fantastic. I would definitely recommend this to everybody. If you haven't already seen it, like, please God, it's on Disney Plus as well. So, it's easy to find. So watch it. So the book. Now, this book was good. And as a classic adventure story of a young lad, it is aged particularly well. I love the whole plot. The writing style itself in points felt a bit stilted, and at points, not often, but at points it made me kind of just have to try and push through it. I mean, I don't understand, I don't know why I kind of had to push through some parts, because overall, I love the story. And the whole premise of it was really good, and it's not a big book, and most of this is introductions and stuff like that, which I never read. And Jim is what you would expect most young lads to be, going off on an adventure. He is adventurous, but also he's not great with authority. So he always seems to find ways to get into trouble, but somehow that always seems to work out well for the people that he's with. And the mutinies go on, and it is a good book, and it's a good adventure story, and it stood the test of time. Like, there's nothing stilted in it in its views or how it presents the characters. It could be made today, basically. His father figure as well, in the shape of a pirate, and the Doctor. So, two completely different people, is so sweet to read about, because even though he does have a dad at the beginning of the book, unfortunately the dad dies, and then he finds this sort of father figure in a pirate, Long John Silver, but also in the Doctor as well, that takes him under his wing. I mean, this is a must read for anyone that likes classics, but also anyone that enjoys, adventure stories. And I mean, as I said, I enjoyed it. At parts, I had to kind of work through the language, but it gets a 6 out of 10 for me, because it is a very enjoyable book, and I probably would go back to it and maybe read it to kids if I ever have any in the future. So now let's look at the plot. So the film starts with us seeing Flint bury his treasure and killing his crew, and then it goes to where the book starts. So the book starts with an old grizzled captain staying at the inn where Master Jim Hawkins works. This captain is anxious to avoid seafaring men, especially a man with one leg. So in the book, Jim has his parents at first. One of them unfortunately passes away, as I said. In the film, he is fully an orphan. But he has Rizzo and Gonzo to make it, to be friends with. Now, in the book, a sailor called Black Dog comes first to talk to the captain, and Jim's dad dies. Not because of Black Dog, but just unrelated. But in both, a blind sailor comes looking for the captain and this time gives him the black spot. This causes the captain to drop dead of a heart attack, which means that Jim ends up with a treasure map. Now, in the book, he still has his mum, and she kind of urges him to go off and find his fortune, as it were. In the film, as I said, he's got Gonzo and Rizzo. Rizzo's a rat, Gonzo is whatever he is, which is the running joke, basically. But in both, the inn does get destroyed. There does seem to be someone called Dr. Livesey, who's in the book. He's very prominent in the book. He is a non-existent character in the film. I think Gonzo and Rizzo are basically the Dr. Livesey character. But in both, you have Esquire Trelawney. He finances a ship and a crew to go and find the treasure from the map. He is also a blabbermouth in both. And in both, Squire Trelawney hires Long John Silver, a one-legged seafaring man. You see where this one's going. And Long John Silver hires the crew. No-brainer. So Long John, when Jim first meets him, sees he only has one leg and becomes very kind of suspicious of him, but not for long. Like, Jim, man, get your head in the game. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's probably a lot of one-legged men back there, but like, think, Jim, think. Now, in the book, the first mate Arrow is picked by Long John Silver because he is susceptible to drink and they can get rid of him. In the film, Captain Smollett picks the first mate Arrow. In both, however, Captain Smollett appears to be put out by the crew because he doesn't trust them, which is completely true. And you see the roll call in the Muppets one is so funny. It was just like, you know, old John, like really old John, dead John, and it's just like... Oh my god, it's brilliant. I just love it, and it's watching Kermit's face in that bit as well when you know they're doing the roll call and he's like, could you come see me in my office, please? And then he just throws like one of his Kermit fits, and he's like, who hired this crew? And it's oh my god, it cracks me up every time. Anyway, so now in both we set sail for adventure on the big blue wet thing. If you see Muppet Treasure Island, you'll understand that that's what Squire Trelawney calls the sea. So Mr. Arrow in the book is a suspected drunk and ends up overboard very quickly within the journey. In the film, he's a stern and reliable person and is tricked to disappearing by Long John a little bit later in the journey. Doesn't die though, because the Muppets, pretty much no one dies. Like, you get injured but you don't die. But in both, Long John takes Jim under his wing and treats him well. By chance, in both, Jim ends up in an apple barrel and overhears Long John plotting with his fellow shipmates a mutiny. So quite calmly, Jim relays what he heard to Captain Smollett, Squire Trelawney and Dr. Livesey. Of course, in the film, there is no doctor, it's Rizzo and Gonzo. And they kind of come with a plan of attack, as it were. So in the book, when learning of the dishonour, Smollett suggests carrying on for the time being because he's not entirely sure. He doesn't want to push them to react too quickly. In the film, Smollett suggests that Long John can go ashore and then they'll sail off and leave them there. So in both, Long John goes ashore with his shipmates, and in the book, Jim stows away on the boat and ends up on the island. In the film, he's basically kidnapped by Long John. So in the book, Jim is still spying on them, and he sees Long John kill a man who would not join the mutiny. In the book as well, Jim is stalking through the island. He's met by someone called Ben Gunn, who was marooned on the island originally with Flint and his treasure. So when Dr. Livesey in the book realises that Jim has stowed away, he and Captain Smollett go to the island after him, bringing the people that are loyal to him. And in the book, Jim finds a rescue party and ends up with them. In the film, he's tasked with finding the treasure and he's still with Long John. He's still captive of Long John. But in the book, Long John has come to parley with them, with Jim and co, so that he can get the map, to which Smollett basically says no, not going to happen. So in the film, Smollett, Rizzo and Gonzo have been captured by pigs who are basically controlled by Miss Piggy. And Smollett sees his ex-girlfriend, Miss Piggy. Does not go well. But in the book, an attack of pirates leaves casualties on both sides. Again, as I said, in the film, there's not that many people that die. In fact, there's no one that dies. In the book, a lot of people die. So in the film, they found the treasure chest, but there's no treasure in it. So Long John lets Jim escape and quells a possible mutiny against him. In the book, Jim cuts the ship loose and it goes almost aground, but manages to get it into a little hollow so they can escape later. Now, in the film, Jim saves Rizzo and Gonzo and they go back to the ship and they take it back from the mutineers. As I said, because, Jim has cut loose the ship, he's on board, basically. Now, in the film, they're off to rescue Smollett and Miss Piggy, as they were left hanging by Long John Silver to die, because Long John has found his treasure. Obviously, Miss Piggy had it. And now, in the book, on the ship, Jim has the help of a pirate, who then turns on him, so Jim ends up accidentally killing him. In the film, it's his friends that help him steer the ship. Now in the book, Jim is captured by Silver. So this happened a lot earlier in the film. And in the book, the remaining pirates try to give Long John the black spot, which has already happened in the film. And again, Silver goes, "You dare to give me the black spot? You ripped a page out of the Holy Bible." And it doesn't go well, basically. But now in the book, they go to find the treasure. Now, in the film, a final fight has broken out between the two sides. Obviously, the good guys win. But again, as well, in the book, they go to find the treasure and they find that it's missing. So they then are worried that Flint's ghost is chasing them. Ben Gunn actually has the treasure off to one side. So Miss Piggy gives them the treasure in the film. Ben Gunn gives them the treasure in the book. And in both, the good guys and Long John, who's kind of switched sides back and forth, God knows, ends up sailing off with the treasure. The film ends with Long John abandoning the ship to sail away in a rowboat with treasure and ending up being marooned because there's a hole in the rowboat. And the rest of the crew going on wild adventures because no one died in the Muppets. The book, however, ends with the remaining men sailing for home. Long John does the same that he does in the film. He disappears with some money. But in the book, it ends with everyone staying firmly on land. Now, when I started reading the book, I realised that it was actually a lot close. I mean, I'm still Muppet Treasure Island, but it's actually very close to Treasure Planet. And I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's a forgotten Disney film, and it is such a good Disney film. Like I love that film. But the Treasure Island is very, very close to Treasure Planet. You've got Ben Gunn, you've got the mutiny, you've got most of it pretty much, and people do die in Treasure Planet. But anyway, so I'm comparing these two plots. So the narratives do kind of start the same, and even for a bit are similar. Then they just kind of split up and do their own thing with the narration, and they even end slightly differently, which is fine. I will say that obviously for this adaptation, it wasn't as close as I thought it would be. There was a lot of bits missing in the film, but I mean, it's the Muppet Treasure Island. To be perfectly honest, I prefer the film Muppet Treasure Island than I do the book Treasure Island. I know, blasphemy, because I'm such a big book fan, but it's the Muppets, man. So overall, the plot gets a 3 out of 10 because it's not as close as I'd like it to be. But of course, this is my own. What's it? Oh my god, I've forgotten the English language. This is my own opinion, of course. If you agree or disagree with anything at all, please leave it below in the comments. If there's any book to film adaptations you'd like to do, leave them below in the comments. Click subscribe so you'll know whenever a new video becomes available. And I will see you all next week. But until then, remember to always keep it contento.